Hello and welcome to the Business Spotlight interview series. I'm your host, Barrett McDonald, and I'm joined today by Chris Oldham, president of InterTalk Systems. Chris, thank you so much for joining us today. Would you like to kick things off with a little bit about what got you set on your entrepreneurial journey and what InterTalk Systems is?
Absolutely. Thanks, Barrett. Thanks for having me aboard. Again, my name is Chris Oldham with InterTalk Systems. I got involved with this through familial ties. My father started the company 27 years ago, and I've been on board for 20 years. I've been in the president seat for the last 10 years, and it really has been an incredible experience, not only just because of the transition, the progression I've made in my own personal career, but just seeing the company grow. Um, we provide tools for first responders that help save lives. And I don't say that as a throwaway comment or a light comment. It's very accurate, very true. Being able to help facilitate communications between dispatchers and first responders in the field for emergency responsiveness. Um, that's the world that we live in, and it's a very fulfilling and rewarding world to be part of. And so, not only do I get to lead a great group of people, but we're also doing great things for our communities and the world at large.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Well, what do you attribute your growth to in this niche that you're in?
I know it's going to sound a little bit of a cliche and canned answer, but it truly is our people. Just before our recording here, we were talking about engaging with some very creative types who like to roll off the couch and just they're not concerned about titles, they're not concerned about the general work itself. They just like being creative and solving problems and creating new things. And we have a tremendous team of people who have that kind of mindset. One of the foundational fabrics of everybody in our organization is just an inherent need to help. And it's not just because of the tools that we make and the products that we make, but even just with one another. They want to help their colleagues. They want to help their communities. They take part in volunteer organizations. They want to help their families. They just have that inherent need to help, which really, speaks to how we have grown as a company over 27 years. We are a 50-person shop in Dartmouth. I think I was employee number 4. So it's pretty remarkable to have witnessed this growth, year over year to where we're at right now. And I can truly attribute that to just the great group of people that we have who genuinely just want to help and that genuinely care about not only the work that they do, but the people that they're doing it for and with.
Absolutely. Well, fantastic. So what would you say have been your biggest learnings as an employer since you began in business?
Ooh, one of the biggest learnings, and I'll try not to have any recency bias, because we're just technically still coming out of a pandemic, and then you get inflation, and then you get all these things, all the stuff that we've had in the last 4 years have really provided a lot of recency bias. And not to say that the things that came that's not important, and that the things that came before that are just a distant memory, but just being able to take a step back and look at the playing field, being able to assess the environment around you and understand that, okay, this is a snapshot in time, and not acting too hastily or looking too short-sighted when you're running a business. There are going to be difficult decisions to make, of course, but you want to make sure that if you are truly looking to grow, if you're truly looking to succeed, make sure that any of those interim steps or decisions that you make are not going to impact your, or dramatically impact or negatively impact your ultimate objective and your ultimate goal. Right? If you are looking to be, instead of a 50-person company, you're looking to be a 250-person company or a 1,000-person company. Even the small things you do here and now can have a ripple effect years down the road as to perhaps your reputation. Perhaps you've rubbed someone the wrong way and you've burned a bridge, and that person becomes someone vitally important to your aspirations for company growth. Um, because those are things that can happen. And so just ensuring that you take the time to truly consider your actions and make sure that you're doing what's not only in the best interest of the company, but also in the best interest of the people that you're impacting.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you think about increasing your number of staff, what qualities do you look for in employees, and how do you foster that positive work environment?
It's a good question, and I mean I, as I alluded to earlier, just that inherent cultural fit. We want people that are genuinely looking to help. They're not too concerned with their own personal ambitions. Now, of course, everybody has personal ambitions. I have mine. You have yours. Every one of my staff has things that they want to accomplish in their careers, but they're not doing it in a way that puts themselves first. They do it in a way that naturally progresses as as the tide raises the ship, right?
Right.
So we're looking for that kind of a fit when we hire people. And again, our turnover rate is extremely low compared to other technology companies, simply because of that fundamental fact of great people who want to be in an environment that fosters creativity, that fosters an ability to help other folks, whether it's through the work you do or with the people that you're with. Um, we look for that fit. We've hired plenty of people who you look at on paper and they don't necessarily meet the criteria. And this, oh, you don't check that box, you don't check that box. But I got a feeling. Don't ever discount the feeling you might have about someone, because they might turn into a complete rock star. And we've
Right.
had many examples of that where, this person is way too junior, or this person has no industry experience. They don't even know what a radio is. So what? You can teach those things. Those things can be learned. What you can't necessarily teach are the inherent values and the inherent characteristics that people have that help contribute to our. Well, I like to call us a community, right? We're a community of people that want to help. So that's probably the main thing I look for, and what we look for as a company when we're looking to add to the community.
Absolutely. Well, that's fantastic. So what would you say? You mentioned that you kind of took over the big seed about 10 years ago. So what would you say have been some of the common misconceptions about running a business that you've come across, and how do you combat them?
Oh, gee, misconception. And something that I frequently hear, and you hear it from customers, you hear it from other vendors, you hear it from the staff. Is, oh, you're the president, you're extremely busy. I'm a very checklist oriented guy. I'm a driver. I like to know I did this, I did this, I did this, and I did this. And when you're sitting in this seat, sometimes it doesn't feel like you have anything to cross off your checklist. And it's like, well, how busy am I really being right now? And you are busy because you're literally always thinking about it. It's never out
Right.
of mind, right? Like I work during the day and I do the things, I talk to all the people and I write the emails and I do the pitches and all this kind of stuff. And then when I sit down after the kids have gone to bed, I'm still thinking about it, right? You're never really off. So it's not a question of, you're always busy. It's just you're always involved. You're always kind of on, and it's hard. It's very hard to turn off. Um, but you're also always accessible. You're always available. Like if someone needs to talk to you, or you want to be involved, you want to know something, you know, it- there's always time. There is always time to speak with your staff, speak with your colleagues, speak with your peers. There's always time. You just have to make it. And you have to
Right.
just make the concerted effort to, I'm going to book this meeting, or I'm actually going to get out of my home office and go out for a coffee and meet that person and, meet them in person rather than have a video call. That's an interesting question, about a misconception. I think, again, playing on that, the fact that even though you're sitting in the big chair and you're responsible for, this many people, you can still make the time, you can still make the effort to be involved and to be available for everybody.
Absolutely. And you touched on never being able to really turn it off. So what are kind of some of the tools you use to try to balance your personal life and the demands of running a business of that size.
Well, the irony is the personal life is my wife also works in the company. So it's like even when we're kind of off for the day and then the kids have gone to bed and we've done the thing with that, she and I are still always talking shop. And we try to make a concerted effort, on occasion to say, we're not talking shop tonight, and then we'll talk about whatever else. And then of course there's always escaping into the fantasies of Netflix and whatever whatever the show of the day is, and we binge watch all the series and do that kind of thing. We have our pizza nights. But again, speaking to what I said earlier about, you have time and making an effort for the time, you also have to make the effort to just not think about it. Right? Like
Right.
it can drive you mad. It can be all consuming when you're, when you own a business and when you're running a company. It can be all consuming, and you really have to make an effort to just not get so deep into the weeds all the time and take a step back and, appreciate, why are you doing this? Like, what's the point? Like, why am I thinking and acting 20 out of 24 hours a day about work? Well, the purpose is my family. I'm doing everything I'm doing for my family. I want to provide for my wife and my kids. I want to get to a point where, we get to enjoy all, the vacations, the times off, and, even the weekends, go to the beach or go to a cottage, whatever the case may be. These are the reasons why. Taking my kids to soccer, right? Watching the joy on their face when they're running around, making passes and scoring goals. I mean, that's why. And you can't lose sight of that. And it's hard to sometimes because you get just too worked up. But that's it's really important, again, just to make the effort to keep that focus on why are you doing what you're doing, and ensuring that you make the time for that as well.
Absolutely. Being purposeful with our time is a key strategy when it comes to trying to find some semblance of balance, which makes total sense. So, thinking back over the last, you said the business has been in operation for 27 years and you've been an entrepreneur for probably the last 10 or so. If you were to start things all over again from square one, what do you think you'd do differently the next time around?
Ooh, I would ask more questions. I think a very important element to know is that you're not the first one to ever do this, right? Like, there are infinite numbers of business owners and people in positions of authority that have done it, that have experienced what you have. There is a very strong probability that whatever you're facing, you're not the first one on this planet to ever face that. Now,
Right.
easy to say, but how do you go about finding the person that also experienced what you're going through? It's easier than you might think, right? Just talk to your own network of people that your friends, your colleagues, someone your accountant, your lawyer, whoever it is, because they know people as well. And you can even reach out blindly to people you don't know that also, you could write out to the VP of marketing for whomever. And chances are they're going to respond and really appreciate the fact that you reached out and you're looking for that input. I think I would have done that more early on. I've certainly leaned into that over the last number of years because, again, that feeling of, oh my God, what am I supposed to do about this? Right? Here's a situation and I have no idea what to do. It's like, here are my options. What's the best decision? People have faced that. And all you have to do is put yourself out there to talk to them and ask them the question. And then once they tell you their answer, you recognize, okay, that's their answer. Doesn't have to mean it's your answer, but it's something else for you to consider. And frankly, the more prepared you are, the more educated you are, the more informed you are to make a decision, chances are it's going to be a better decision, right? And sometimes they're all bad decisions, but this is the least bad, right? There's
Absolutely.
any number of the spectrum of decision making is very, very wide, and just asking for help, asking for guidance, asking and leaning on other people's experience, I think is something I would have done earlier on. not even just as I became president, but also as I was working my way to it, right? Just looking for a bit more guidance than I have.
Fantastic. So last question we kind of talked a little bit about earlier is what kind of advice do you have, or what's the one big piece of advice you'd have to someone watching this series thinking about going down an entrepreneurial path?
It's scary as hell. It is, it can be incredibly overwhelming, right? Like one way of looking at it is, and I do this frequently, is I am effectively responsible for the lives and well-being of 50 families, right? So you have to be very mindful of what decision am I making and how is that going to impact, 50 different families. I mean, I'm not talking just staff, but they have wives, they have kids, they have dependents, they have aspirations and things they want to accomplish. It can be incredibly overwhelming. So I would suggest to folks to just, you mentioned about how do you unwind, how do you turn it off, how do you carve out that time to really focus on yourself and assess what kind of company do I want to have and what kind of leader do I want to be, right? Like there's any number of different styles. um Ask yourself, what are my values, right? I know it doesn't sound very task oriented, and it doesn't get the job done, but they are important things to ask, right? What matters to me? What would make me willing to effectively jump in and consume myself with this enterprise? Like, how am I truly passionate about it, or am I just trying to make a buck, right? And if you're trying to make a buck, that's fine too. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just understand what your objectives are, understand what's important to you, and then, frankly, and it sounds pretty easy, but the rest will take care of itself. I mean, you want to start a business, there's government programs, and then there's investors, and you just have to make the effort. But if you understand what you're trying to accomplish and what matters to you, it makes that journey much smoother.
Absolutely. Well, that's fantastic and a great note to end on, Chris. So I thank you so much for your time today, and everyone watching. I hope to see you on our next episode.
Thanks, Barrett. I appreciate it.